woke progressive Christianity and the just classic anti-American left that has made itself known to us in the last 50 years. I think there's a correlation, and in this video we're going to find it. Predominantly left-wing people are very just viscerally anti-American. It's almost as if to say something positive, even in the most obvious way, is betraying some sort of internal moral secret handshake leftist code. If you call somebody like that out on what they're doing, they'll just immediately say, hey, no, everybody who loves something criticizes it. That's your standard line. I don't need to elaborate on that. You already know that. I've said for a long time, the left loves America like a trailer park husband with sloppy Joe sauce and alcohol breath loves his wife as he picks her up every Friday night from the ER. That's the way the left loves America. I'm sure in some way in that wife beater's head, he loves his wife, but really what he is a narcissist. And everything that's happening to him is going through some sort of very, very unhealthy, bizarre narrative of twisted reality. And in that reality, I'm sure there's love there. I don't think that the ER nurses would translate that as love, nor would the people that walk by that wife as she's black-eyed and bruised in the grocery store. And in a similar way, most healthy people see the left's anti-Americanism for exactly what it is. It's just some sort of damage that they're not doing business with, possibly college propaganda. There's any host of reasons for that. It's not to say that none of the critiques that you hear from the left are valid. They are, but it's very, very clear if you talk to these people that it really has very little to do with those critiques, and it actually has to do with a very visceral dislike and disdain, knee-jerk disdain for America. It gets to the point where anybody opposing America is automatically good. Religious fundamentalism of Islam has already been romanticized by the left simply because it's anti-American, despite the fact that they stone women, honor killings, any number of things that are just deplorable and disgusting. The fact that their ideology and their worldview is a complete and total 180 from the one that the left in America claim to offer us. Doesn't matter, I hate America, death to the great Satan, equal friend, equal good thing. And similarly, recently with China, you see this. China's got like a boat a day, cruise liner a day filled with human hair leaving that nation. They have work camps. Are you good today points that they're giving their citizens. Side note, that's creeping everywhere. If you want an organ, if one of your organs fails, just snap your fingers, hocus pocus, just an organ that fits you appears in China and nobody bats an eye. It's just deplorable and disgusting evil. And yet because it's quote unquote anti-American, a lot of these left-wingers will just de facto romanticize it. It's better that they fill the void of superpower in the world, so on and so forth. I don't want to elaborate much on this because you guys already know this. I know you do. Even the people that are aggravated with me about making this video, you already know this is true. You've seen this parade itself in sometimes shocking ways. The point I want to make in this video, though, is in a very, very similar way I see the woke and progressive Christians. And I use these terms loosely. The left will get real crazy about the lexicon of it all. That's just moving the goalposts of a conversation. You can call it whatever you want. Wokeism that has permeated our churches. A very, very similar intellectual pattern has emerged in regards to the church. So what they do is they just lay waste to the church verbally all the time. Any kind of problem pounced upon. Again, I want to say a lot of times there's a lot of accurate stuff in the weeds of that. There's a very, very popular podcast, Rise and Fall of Mars Hill. The thing is if you listen to that podcast, although there's wonderful points being made and things that I do believe are valid critiques of power, etc., what you very, very clearly realize is this is left-wing politics, left-wing worldview dressed up in a pursuit of righteousness. Both can be true at the same time, and I'm making the case that it is here. Terms like patriarchy and gender and all these things make their way into a critique of the church, and they smuggle that in, right? They smuggle all that garbage, wedge garbage, that really the church should have nothing to do with and should rebuke, actually. They smuggle that all in very covertly with sort of the trappings of good intention, with the trappings of surgical, scalpel-like precision. But it's all undergirded and back-ended by a very left-wing ideology. Their critiques, in other words, just feel at times disingenuous, and certainly the voices they choose to articulate them are purposefully done so that you walk away with what is essentially like a manipulative perspective on both the problem and the church itself. And as a side note, I would say anything Christianity today is touching, be very, very skeptical of that for this reason. They've been hijacked by left-wing ideologues and dogmatists, and they want to push an agenda, and the agenda is not the edification and furthering of the church. Maybe it once was. It is not now. Those individuals have proven themselves to be ideologues, and ideologues not for the gospel, but for this woke progressive Christianity, which I'm always telling you there's a very, very clear, distinct difference between the two. So what they do is they run around critiquing the church all the time. It's abusive. It's mega churches are abusive. It's small churches are abusive. It's critique after critique after critique. I'm a Gen Xer. I was raised in the wake of what's being discussed there, and a lot of that stuff is true. But the problem I have with a lot of these critiques is the individual's heart. See, really, if you listen to this individual for long enough, they have a tone and an attitude as they discuss these things that really should be in front of a counselor. What they really should be doing is dealing with their own scars, hurts. They're projecting them onto a church at large. Very, very quickly, this victimology kind of envelops them, and problems are all out there, and none of the problems are internalized. And in fact, that's exactly the opposite of what the gospel of grace teaches us, that we need to examine ourselves and then fall before a cross and be renewed and restored in his love and grace, not just be projecting our problems on to everybody else. And again, just to be redundant, because I know the audience that critiques this, it's not as though those conversations cannot happen, and it's not as though they're not valid, but it's the intention behind those conversations. Those conversations can't be an ends to a leftist means. They have to be genuinely had. And the problem is that the critique of the church is very similar to the critique of America. This person doesn't actually love his church. The left-wing person does not love the experiment of America. They do not love their founding documents. They do not love the intention of the nation. They want to recreate it into something else. And in a very, very similar way, your left-wing, your progressive, woke Christians want to do that with the church. They're just not honest about it. I wouldn't even mind this if they were just honest about it, but they know they can't, so they wrap everything they do up in language that you're familiar with, concern that you're familiar with, kingdom conversation. Those blows to the body that are all familiar, they got a haymaker waiting for you, and that's just an ideological one. At the foundation of this new religion, this cult religion, just a love for the world. They think that his church is awkward and branded badly and not cool, and so many other things that we'll get into as this channel progresses. So notice that these progressive woke Christians don't want to leave the body, the community of the church. They just want it to change and transform into them. And in the exact same way, the left, they're not buying plane tickets to leave the United States of America and all its prosperity. They're just lobbing Molotov cocktails of cheap critique. It just takes a small little bit of discernment. It's in short supply recently to see all these things. That's the correlation. Tell me what you think. I'm sure you have opinions. Plop them down there in that comment section. Make sure you tell your friends about this channel. Take it easy, guys.